Good morning, my dear students. I welcome you all to chapter 2 in physics, electrostatic potential and capacitance. Now we shall discuss about electrostatic potential energy. Before that, let us recall from class 11th some concept about the gravitational potential energy. We have heard that when a mass enters inside the gravitational field of any other mass, it experiences a gravitational potential energy. In the same way, when any charged particle enters inside the electric field of another charge, the test charge will experience some electrostatic potential energy. Okay, first let us understand the picture. You look at the picture. The given charge is called source charge at the origin. It is denoted by capital Q. Since it is a positive charge, its electric field E will be directed outwards radially. Only one such direction of the electric field is shown in the picture. Along the direction of the electric field, we choose 2 points, capital P and capital R. Now another test charge, which is also a positive charge plus Q, is placed at R and it is moved from R up to the point P. Now since the source charge is capital Q, a positive charge, it will repel the test charge small q. So we have to exert an external force on the test charge Q to move between the points R and P. At the same time, the electrical force of repulsion will be exerted by the source charge capital Q on the test charge small q. Since these two forces, namely the external force exerted on the test charge small q and the electrostatic repulsive force exerted by the source charge capital Q, are equal in magnitude and opposite in direction, the net force acting on the charge small q will be zero. Hence, it is not having any acceleration. So, remember my dear students, the charge small q is moved from the point R to the point P against the electrical force of repulsion without any acceleration, that is with a constant speed. Now let us look at the derivation for the electrostatic potential energy. Consider the field capital E due to the charge capital Q placed at the origin. Now imagine that we bring a test charge small q from a point R to a point P against the repulsive force on it due to the charge capital Q. The repulsion is since capital Q and small q both are positive. Work must be done to overcome this repulsion. This work done is stored as electrostatic potential energy. So, from the picture we come to know that F external is the external force acting on small q to move it from R to P, and Fe is the repulsive force exerted by the electric field E. So F external must be equal to minus of Fe. The net force on the test charge small q is equal to the vector sum of the external force and the electrostatic force of repulsion, that is equal to 0. Hence, there is no net force on or acceleration of the charge small q when it is brought from capital R to capital P. That is, it is brought with infinitesimally slow constant speed. Work done by external forces in moving a charge small q from R to P is denoted by the symbol WRP, and that is equal to integral R to P F external dot dr, where dr vector is a very small displacement between the points R and P. It is also equal to minus of integral R to P Fe dot dr. This is because F external is equal to minus of F E. This work done is against electrostatic repulsive force and gets stored as electrostatic potential energy. If epsilon P or UP represents electrostatic potential energy of Q at point P and epsilon R or UR represents electrostatic potential energy of Q at point R, then the potential energy difference between the points R and P is given by delta epsilon is equal to epsilon P minus epsilon R, that is equal to WRP. Hence, we get a definition for the electric potential difference. Electric potential energy difference between 2 points is defined as the work required to be done by an external force in moving the charge small q from one point to another point without accelerating for electric field of any arbitrary charge configuration. Now let us define electric potential energy gained by a test charge at any point inside the electric field. Now before getting into the topic, my dear students, you will have to understand one very important fact. The given charge is also called as a source charge Q, which is always considered to be positive. Okay. Inside the electric field of the given charge or the source charge, any point, if you assume inside its electric field, any other charge reaching that point will gain electrostatic potential energy or electric potential energy. Suppose if the test charge is moved between 2 points in the electric field of the source charge, this difference in potential energy only is equal to the work done between the 2 points, namely P and R, as we discussed earlier. Suppose you choose a point outside the electric field of the source charge where there is no influence of the source charge. Such a point outside the electric field of the source charge can be called as infinity. Okay, now let us go to the definition. Electric potential energy. The electric potential energy of charge small q at a point in the presence of field due to any charge configuration such as capital Q is the work done by the external force in bringing the charge Q from infinity to that point against electric field. So it is denoted by W. Infinity to P is equal to epsilon P minus epsilon infinity, that is equal to epsilon P. So always the reference point is taken to be infinity, which is a point outside the electric field, and the reference point inside the field is taken to be capital P. Therefore, W infinity P must be equal to final potential energy UP minus initial potential energy U infinity, which is equal to 0. Therefore, it must be equal to UP minus 0 is equal to UP or epsilon P. Electrostatic potential is the next title. It is denoted by capital V. The electrostatic potential capital V at a point in an electric field is defined as the work done by an external force in bringing a unit positive charge from infinity to that point. It is a scalar quantity since it is a measurement of work done, and its unit is volt. So here once again I am repeating, my dear students, electrostatic potential energy at a point, if you want to measure, you have to consider a test charge of small q coulomb. The same, if you want to measure the electrostatic potential V at the same point, then you have to consider a test charge of +1 coulomb, which is a unit positive charge. So this is the difference between the electrostatic potential energy and electrostatic potential. Now let us derive an expression for the electric potential at a point due to a point charge, which is denoted with the symbol capital V. Before getting into the derivation, you please look at the diagram. Let us try to understand the concept behind this derivation. Actually, we are given a positive charge of plus Q coulomb, which is located at the point O. This is the charge which is called as the source charge, and its electric field will be radially outward. Now one such direction is along the horizontal line, and capital E is the electric field due to the given positive charge plus Q. Now our intention is to derive an expression for the electric potential at the point P, which is at a distance small r. For this, what is the idea used here is, we are supposed to bring a unit positive charge plus 1 coulomb from infinity up to the point P against the repulsive force exerted by the charge plus capital Q. For that purpose, in between the points infinity and the point P, we will consider two arbitrary points capital A and B, such that they are separated by a distance small dx. So the entire distance from infinity up to the point P is divided into multiples of small dx, and from A to B we will move the unit positive charge through a small distance dx and find the small work done. Then it is integrated between the limits infinity up to the point P. So now we will go to the derivation. Let plus Q be an isolated point charge situated in air at O. P is a point at a distance small r from plus Q. Consider another arbitrary point capital A at a distance small x from plus Q. Let a unit positive charge plus 1 coulomb be placed at A. The force acting on a unit positive charge placed at A distant x from plus Q is given by Coulomb's inverse square law. That is, F vector is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into capital Q into 1 by x square into r cap. Since this is the force experienced by a unit positive charge, this is also equal to the electric field intensity at P. Therefore, F vector also can be called as E vector, which is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q by x square into r cap. And the magnitude of the electric field is given by modulus of E vector, that is equal to E, that is again equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q by x square, where r cap is a unit vector from O to P. Small work done in moving the unit positive charge of plus 1 coulomb through a small distance dx from A to B is given by dw equal to minus of E dot dx, which is equal to minus E dx cos 0, that is equal to minus E dx. Negative sign indicates that work is done against repulsion by the field E. Hence, the total work done in moving a unit positive charge from infinity to point P at a distance r is given by W equal to minus of integral infinity to r E dx, which is equal to minus of integral infinity to r 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q by x square dx, which is equal to minus Q by 4 pi epsilon naught into integral infinity to r 1 by x square dx, which is equal to minus Q by 4 pi epsilon naught into minus 1 by x between the limits infinity to r. This minus and minus will be positive. Therefore, W is equal to Q by 4 pi epsilon naught into 1 by r minus 1 by infinity, that is equal to Q by 4 pi epsilon naught R. So this work done only is called the electric potential at the point P, which is represented by V. Therefore, capital V is equal to Q by 4 pi epsilon naught R. Note, the potential at P is positive if Q is positive, and the potential at P is negative if Q is negative. Number 2, the potential at infinity is 0. Number 3, since V is proportional to 1 by R, the potential decreases along the direction of the electric field E. Let us now derive an expression for the potential at a point due to an electric dipole. First, let us understand the picture. The diagram consists of an electric dipole made up of charges minus Q and plus Q separated by distance 2a. The midpoint of the dipole, namely O, is at a distance small r from the point P. This line OP makes an angle theta with respect to the axis of the dipole. We are supposed to measure the potential at the point P due to the dipole. So, we first measure the potential at P due to the positive charge Q, and then the potential at P due to the negative charge minus Q, and we add these two potentials to get the net potential at the point P. Okay, now we will go through the derivation. Consider an electric dipole consisting of charges plus Q and minus Q separated by a small distance 2a. Let O be the midpoint of the dipole and small p equal to 2aq be its dipole moment. Let R1 be the distance of point P from plus Q, R2 be the distance of point P from minus Q, and R be the distance of point P from O. Potential at P due to plus Q is given by V1 equal to Q by 4 pi epsilon naught R1. Potential at P due to minus Q is given by V2 equal to minus Q by 4 pi epsilon naught R2. Hence, the net potential at P due to the dipole is V equal to V1 plus V2. Now again look at the picture. The two charges plus Q and minus Q are shown along the vertical direction, and the point P is on the right hand side of the midpoint O of the dipole. You notice that there are two triangles formed, one above OP, that is OPA, and another triangle is found below OP, that is triangle OPB. In these two triangles we are applying cosine rule, and we get the expressions for R1 in terms of R and R2 in terms of R. Okay, now look at the derivation. Applying cosine rule for triangle OPA and simplifying, it can be shown that R1 square is equal to R square plus A square minus 2AR into cos theta, that is equal to R square taken as common factor into 1 minus 2a cos theta by R plus a square by R square. Now taking square root on both sides, on the left hand side square root of R1 square will become R1. On the right hand side the square root of the first term R square will become R, and the square root of the bracketed quantity will become 1 minus 2a by R cos theta whole power half. Here the third term a square by R square is missing. The reason is given in the bracket. Since a is very much less than R, the value of a square by R square will be very small, therefore it can be neglected. Now taking reciprocal on both sides, on the left hand side the reciprocal of R1 is 1 by R1. On the right hand side the reciprocal of the first term is 1 by R, and the reciprocal of the bracketed quantity will become 1 minus 2a by R cos theta whole power minus half. while taking reciprocal, the power plus half will become minus half. This is like 1 minus x whole power n. Using binomial theorem, this can be expanded. So expanding binomially and simplifying, it can be shown that 1 by r1 is equal to 1 by r into 1 plus a by r cos theta. This is equation 2. In a similar manner, applying cosine rule for triangle OPB and simplifying, it can be shown that 1 by r2 is equal to 1 by r into 1 minus a by r cos theta. This is equation 3. Substituting 2 and 3 in equation 1. So what is the equation 1 we have written already is the net potential V equal to V1 plus V2. In the expressions for V1 and V2, in terms of 1 by R1, we are expressing in terms of 1 by R. And 1 by R2 is expressed in terms of 1 by R according to equations 2 and 3. Therefore, V is now equal to Q by 4 pi epsilon naught R into 1 plus a by r cos theta minus 1 plus a by r cos theta. 1 and minus 1 get cancelled. A by r cos theta plus a by r cos theta will become 2a cos theta by r. Therefore, V equal to Q by 4 pi epsilon naught into 2a cos theta by r square. Now Q into 2a product is also equal to the dipole moment P. Therefore, capital V is now equal to P cos theta by 4 pi epsilon naught r square. Small p equal to 2aq is the magnitude of the dipole moment. And this is equation 4. Now, P cos theta is also equal to vector P dot product with r cap, where r cap is the unit vector along the position vector OP. Hence, the electric potential of the dipole is given in vector form. V equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into P vector dot r cap by r square. This is true only when r is very much greater than a. This equation 5 is the final expression for the potential V of the dipole. These are the special cases by considering the point P near the positive charge along the axial line or near the negative charge along the axial line or at any point along the equatorial line of the dipole. Look at case 1 now. If P is on the axial line near plus Q, then theta is equal to 0 degree. And hence cos theta equal to cos 0 is equal to 1. Therefore, the potential is V equal to plus P by 4 pi epsilon naught r square. This is equation 6. Case 2. If point P is on the axial line near minus Q, then theta equal to 180 degree. Hence cos theta is equal to cos 180 is equal to minus 1. Therefore, V equal to minus P by 4 pi epsilon naught r square. This is equation 7. Case 3. If point P is on the equatorial line, then theta is equal to 90 degree. And hence cos theta is equal to cos 90 is equal to 0. And hence the potential V is equal to 0. This is equation 8. Now let us derive an expression for the potential due to a system of many charges. Before that, we all must know that at any point P, there will be a single electric potential if only one charge is given. And there will be two potentials at the same point if two charges are given. Like that, if n number of charges are given, due to all these charges, there will be n number of potentials at the same point P, and the net potential will be equal to the algebraic sum of all these potentials. Using this concept, let us now go through the derivation. Consider a system of charges q1, q2, q3 up to qn with position vectors r1, r2, r3 up to rn relative to some origin O. The potential V1 at P due to the charge Q1 is V1 equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q1 by R1P. The potential V2 at P due to the charge Q2 is V2 equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q2 by R2P. The potential V3 at P due to the charge Q3 is V3 equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q3 by R3P. Similarly, the potential Vn at P due to the charge Qn is given by Vn equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into Qn by Rnp, where R1P, R2P, R3P up to Rnp are the distances of P from the charges Q1, Q2, Q3 up to Qn. By the principle of superposition, the potential V at P due to the total charge configuration is the algebraic sum of the potentials due to the individual charges. Therefore, the net potential V is equal to V1 plus V2 plus V3 up to Vn. So, you substitute the terms for V1, V2 up to Vn. In all these terms, 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught is found to be constant, so we take it out as a common factor. Hence, the net potential V due to the system of charges equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q1 by R1P plus Q2 by R2P plus Q3 by R3P up to the last term Qn by Rnp. Equipotential surface. As the name itself suggests, the electric potential at all points on a given surface must be equal. Okay, now let us look at the definition. An equipotential surface is a surface with a constant value of potential at all points on the surface. For a single point charge Q, the potential is given by V equal to Q by 4 pi epsilon naught R. This shows that the potential V is a constant if small r is constant. Thus, equipotential surfaces of a single point charge are concentric spherical surfaces centered at the charge. Now look at the first diagram. The given charge is plus Q at the center. The first circle shown is having a smaller radius, and the second circle, third, fourth, fifth onwards, the radius is continuously increasing. And you must remember that each circle is representing a sphere actually in 3 dimensions. So on a sphere, any point is at equal distance from its center, and hence the potential on the spherical surface at all points will be the same. Hence, you must remember that the shape of the equipotential surface for a point charge in space must be spherical. Now look at the second picture and the third picture. Already we have studied this in chapter 1 in terms of electric lines of force. For a positive charge, the lines of force are pointed radially outward within a spherical shell. Similarly, for the negative charge, the electric lines of force are radially inward in spherical shells. So the shape of the equipotential surface for a point charge, whether positive or negative, is concentric spherical shells. Below the diagram you see the electric field at every point is normal to the equipotential surface passing through that point. For any charge configuration, equipotential surface through a point is normal to the electric field at that point. I will repeat it. The equipotential surface through a point is normal to the electric field at that point. There is no potential difference between any two points on the equipotential surface, and hence no work is required to move a test charge on the surface. This is because the potential at all points are the same over the equipotential surface. Hence, the potential difference between any two points must be equal to 0. Hence, the work done to move from one point to another point on the same equipotential surface must be equal to 0. Lastly, the work done to move a charge Q between any two points A and B given by W equal to Q into VB minus VA. If both the points A and B lie on the same equipotential surface, then work done is 0 because VA will be equal to VB. Here are some diagrammatic representation of the equipotential surfaces for different charge configurations. On the top left, you can see the equipotential surfaces for an electric dipole consisting of two equal and dissimilar charges. On the right side top, you can see the equipotential surfaces for two identical charges where both are positive. Below that, we can see the equipotential surfaces for a uniform electric field. The uniform electric field is represented by horizontal parallel lines facing towards the right. Three rectangular surfaces 1, 2 and 3 are held perpendicular to the electric field E. On the first surface, the potential at all points will be the same and it is equal to V1. On the vertical surface 2, the potential at all points will be the same and it is equal to V2. Similarly, on the vertical surface 3, the potential at all points will be the same and will be equal to V3. But the potentials V1, V2 and V3 are not equal. Now, if you want to move a point charge anywhere between any two points on the first surface, the work done is 0. But if you want to move a test charge from the surface 1 to surface 2 or surface 2 to surface 3, work has to be done. This is because the potential at 1 is different than the potential at 2 and 3. Now you look at the expressions. Electric potential at all points on surface 1 are equal. Electric potential at all points on surface 2 are equal. Electric potential at all points on surface 3 are equal. But the potential V1 is greater than potential V2 and these two potentials are greater than V3. This is because already we have studied that the electric potential V decreases along the direction of the field. Relation between electric field and electric potential. Look at the picture first. There are two surfaces, namely A and B, which are equipotential. The potential at any point on the surface A will be equal and that is equal to V. Similarly, the potential at any point on the surface B will be the same and is equal to V plus dV. You can see that the two surfaces are perpendicular to the direction of the electric field E, which is pointed upward. Okay, now look at the derivation. Consider two closely spaced equipotential surfaces A and B with potential values V and V plus dV, where dV is the change in potential in the direction of the electric field E, that is upward. Let P be a point on the surface B. Let dx be the perpendicular distance of the surface A from the point P. Imagine that a unit positive charge is moved along this perpendicular from the surface B to the surface A against the electric field. That is, it is moved in the downward direction. Work done in moving a unit positive charge from B to A is given by dV equal to E dx. This work done is equal to the potential difference between the 2 points A and B. That is, this work done must be equal to VA minus VB. Therefore, E dx is equal to VA minus VB. Already we have mentioned that potential at A, VA is equal to V, and the potential at B is VB equal to V plus dV. Substituting for VA and VB, we get that E dx equal to V minus of V plus dV. This V and minus V get cancelled. The remaining factor will be minus dV. That is, E dx is equal to minus dV, or E is equal to minus dV by dx. The change of potential with distance is known as potential gradient. Hence, the electric field is equal to the negative gradient of potential. I will repeat once again, E equal to minus dV by dx, where dV is the potential difference between 2 points and dx is the distance of separation between the same 2 points. This ratio of the change in potential divided by the distance between the points is called the potential gradient. Since E is equal to minus of dV by dx, the electric field is equal to the negative gradient of potential. The negative sign indicates that the potential decreases in the direction of the electric field. The unit of electric intensity can also be expressed as volt per meter. Already we have derived an unit for electric field as Newton per Coulomb. But here it is also found that the unit for electric intensity is volt per meter. Conclusions. 1. Electric field is in the direction in which the potential decreases. 2. The magnitude of the electric field is given by the change in magnitude of potential per unit displacement normal to the equipotential surface at the point. We now understand how to derive an expression for the potential energy of a system consisting of many charges. 1. Two-charge system. Consider a system consisting of 2 point charges Q1 and Q2 separated by a distance R12. The electric potential at a point at a distance R12 from the point charge Q1 alone is given by V equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q1 by R12. So this is the potential at a distance R12 only due to Q1 in the absence of Q2. This potential V is the work done to bring a unit positive charge from infinity up to the point distant R12. So what should have happened to the work done if plus 2 Coulomb charge is brought from infinity to the same distance? The work done should have been 2 times. Similarly, if you bring plus 5 Coulomb from infinity to the same point distant R12, the work done should have been 5 times this V. But instead of that, we are bringing Q2 Coulomb of charge from infinity to the point distance R12, and hence the work done must be equal to Q2 times V. Now, if the charge Q2 is brought from infinity to that point at a distance R12 from Q1, work has to be done. This work done is equal to the product of the charge Q2 and the potential V at that point. That is, W is equal to Q2 into V. This work done is stored as electrostatic potential energy U of a system of charges Q1 and Q2 separated by distance R12. Thus we have U equal to Q2V, or U equal to Q2 times 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q1 by R12, or U is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q1 Q2 by R12. Case 2 is 3 charge system. Look at the picture. This system consists of 3 point charges, namely Q1, Q2 and Q3, located at points A, B and C respectively. The distance of separation between Q1 and Q2 is R12. Between Q2 and Q3 is R23, and between Q1 and Q3 it is R13. Look at the derivation. To calculate the total electrostatic potential energy, we use the following procedure. We bring all the charges one by one and arrange them according to the configuration as shown in figure. Step 1. Bringing a charge Q1 from infinity to the point A requires no work because there are no other charges already present in the vicinity of the charge. Step 2. To bring the second charge Q2 to the point B, work must be done against the electric field created by the charge Q1. So, the work done on charge Q2 is W is equal to Q2 times V1B. Here, V1B is the electrostatic potential due to the charge Q1 at point B. This is given by U1 is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q1 Q2 by R12, equation 1. That is, the electrostatic potential energy of a system consisting of two charges Q1 and Q2 by the previous discussion. U1 must be equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught times the product of the charges Q1 Q2 divided by the distance between the charges R12. Step 3. Similarly, to bring the charge Q3 to the point C, work has to be done against the total electric field due to both the charges Q1 and Q2. So, the work done to bring the charge Q3 is equal to Q3 into V1C plus V2C. Here, V1C is the electrostatic potential due to the charge Q1 at point C, and V2C is the electric potential due to the charge Q2 at point C. The corresponding electrostatic potential energy is U23 equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q1 Q3 by R13 plus Q2 Q3 by R23. This is equation 2. Hence, the total electrostatic potential energy for the system of three charges Q1, Q2 and Q3 is given by U equal to U1 plus U23, or U is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q1 Q2 by R12 plus Q1 Q3 by R13 plus Q2 Q3 by R23, and this is equation 3. This is the end of the PowerPoint projection 1. The remaining topics will be continued from PPT 2. Have a nice time.